Finally, I get to teach a whole lesson all by myself. And I'm going to teach something relevant, something modern. The internet. The internet is really, really great for porn. I've got a fast connection, so I don't have to wait for porn.
Love Avenue Q. One of the better musicals. Let me make sure this is going. Period. Yep. We're running. Okay.
And welcome back to another episode of Crips and Corks. I'm your host, DJ, here with my co-host,
Paul, as usual. And we come to you guys on a very beautiful, beautiful somber day in the same outfits we wore last week.
Still hungover,
still fighting for our lives a little bit. The rivers in Pittsburgh are still brown, unfortunately. The Steelers haven't won the Super Bowl in a while. I haven't had a pierogi in a while.
Oh, pierogies actually sound good.
Right, I love a pierogi. Y'all need to get into a pierogi. Oh my god.
Okay, I have a funny story about a pierogi.
Okay, what?
So one time, my grandmother, she would always make her own pierogies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Christmas, and I walked into the kitchen, and she's pulling out a frozen bag of pierogies. Mm-hmm. And she's like, please, don't tell anyone. I'm just, so tired. I didn't have time to do it this year. Don't tell anyone. And I'm like, okay, your secret's safe with me. We sit down for Christmas dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone starts eating the pierogies. And my uncle goes, wow, these are the best pierogies you've ever made.
That's so funny. It's crazy.
And I look at my grandmother, and she's, clenching her knife and fork,
thank you, I put a lot of love into I think stories like that are so funny. I feel like everyone has a story like that where they, make something store-bought and they trick, whoever into thinking, they made it. And they're like, oh, this is so good.
Yes, actually, just now on Easter, my aunt had dinner, but, me and my grandparents had brunch. Mm-hmm. And I cooked brunch, but my aunt only asked my grandmother to bring mashed potatoes over for dinner because my grandmother makes great mashed potatoes. Rose makes great mashed potatoes. And she was like, I don't have time. We had brunch at 11:30, and it was I don't have time to peel the potatoes and then boil them and then mash them. And so after everyone left, my grandfather ran to Giant Eagle, got a bunch of the Bob Evans microwavable mashed potatoes, and she made them and she stuffed them in a pot.
Those aren't too bad, though.
I don't eat them because I think they taste like you can taste. I'll eat them when they're fresh made, but if you try to reheat them, they taste like plastic.
Right. Yeah. Those instant mashed potatoes you make, you can't reheat those.
No.
They're a one and done.
But it's just laugh so hard, because I made French toast casserole, and I was like, do you want me to peel and start boiling the potatoes? She's just like, no, we have enough going on. She's like, I'm just gonna do instant.
Right. Honestly, I love just regular mashed potatoes, from actual potatoes, but sometimes you just gotta go with the instant ones. If you're short on time, if you're just one person, you just gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. And you know what? That's okay. It is what it is. No. How was your week, DJ?
It was fine. Easter just passed when we're recording this, not when you're listening to it. I did a lot of cooking.
Mm-hmm.
I baked a cake for Easter dinner, which I outdid myself. It was a triple chocolate cake, and I made homemade ganache to put on top.
Oh, yeah, you did send everyone those pictures of it. Yeah. It looked interesting.
Interesting?
Well, I hate a cake like that. I'm not gonna lie to you. Those upside down bundt cakes, I don't fuck with that. I think those cakes are dry and bad.
Oh no, it's not dry. It's very moist. Mm. And then on Easter, I made French toast casserole, and I made bacon and sausage.
You did a lot of cooking.
I did a lot of cooking.
In your house.
I was very domesticated.
You're a domestic era.
Somebody wifed me up. I'm an excellent cook.
Period.
I'm fairly clean.
Fairly. No.
Pay no attention to last night's makeup still on my face.
I didn't do any cooking over Easter. I just went and saw the family.
Yeah.
I did the thing where because like divorced parents, you have to go to like 7 households, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is what it is. It wasn't that bad. It was a pretty good Easter. And then, of course, I went to the beach, which is interesting. One interesting thing about that I've noticed, like, because I went to the beach by myself. It was a solo trip. And one thing I've noticed, like, when you go places solo, the workers are more likely to talk to you and like be super friendly. The workers were all so friendly to me.
That's nice.
I made so many friends with like restaurant workers and things. I was just like sitting there at the bar having my good old meal and they're like telling me where you from, where you doing your thing and things. It was nice. And of course, as you guys know, my girl Emily from the winery, she was super nice.
Hi Emily, did you give her like a business card or anything?
Well, I told her about the pod and she said she did look it up and stuff, and she was like, "That's you guys?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's us." She said, "We'll give you a
I hope you're listening, and I hope you're enjoying.
Yes. And, no, it was nice. I also talked to this guy who was a Vietnam vet at one of the museums there. And, of course,
You went to a museum?
Well, it was, like, right down the street from my hotel, because if you're wondering why DJ's asking it like that, I'm not a museum girl. I don't like museums or I'll go to the Smithsonian of Natural History because I love animals, but that's about it. Okay, but I was talking with him, and he was talking about his experiences in Vietnam, and I was like, oh, God, here we go. He's going to be racist or something like that.
Something spooky's about to come out of his mouth.
But no, he was like, don't trust the government, you know. We're over there dying while they're over here, and, like, it's not both. Like, don't hate people over war. It's the governments, and the governments are the people we should be worried about. He was saying, like, how people expect him to hate Vietnamese people because he went over to Vietnam and saw that war. But he doesn't hate them. He hates the government.
Interesting.
And I thought that was, like, a good take. I was like, yeah, because it is the government's putting us in these wars and then expecting us to die over these wars.
Vietnam was a very pointless war, as was Korea.
Right. Not to get too political, but it was just like an interesting experience. And like, the museum was like a duck decoy museum, which is the weirdest thing to have a museum about. And the house was like the original mayor of Virginia Beach's like house or whatever. So it could have been haunted. I didn't get any spooky vibes or anything. I was walking through there trying to get anything spooky.
But you don't get spooky vibes because remember Lockhouse? We heard somebody walking around outside and you just opened the door. Hello?
And
we're like, stop! If it's not a demon, it's a crackhead!
Right, yeah. No, I did it, yeah.
You want to be a black cat so bad, but you can't help it. You are a golden retriever.
I am at the end of the day, I am very extroverted, and I do like talking with people and being around people, and be like, hello!
You are.
I mean, I lived in a frat house. I lived in a community, like a literal spiritual community with people.
You want to be a black cat so bad, but you're just not. I'm sorry.
Right. I want to be goth so bad, but unfortunately, I'm too Aeropostale coded.
I mean, if you want to be a cat, maybe you're like one of those like fluffy Persian ones.
Ooh, I like that. Do you have anything else to add?
No. Do you have anything for Pop Culture Corner?
I actually have a very, very interesting story for you.
Oh, okay.
We have another wife of a famous person doing crazy stuff.
Oh.
So, the wife of Weezer, the band Weezer's bassist. So, what happened was the police were looking for someone. They go into her backyard, right? They're, like, entering her backyard because they're looking for someone. Don't know how she got involved with... Like, no one knows how she got... Because these two people were running from the police. No one knows how she got involved with it. The police come into her backyard. She has a gun. She points... The police are like, stand down. She points the gun at the police and fire. The police promptly shoot her in the shoulder because she's a white woman.
Yeah.
Like, if, like... And we know all about the police.
And but at least they shot her.
Yeah, that's true. They shot her in the shoulder. She goes to jail. Guess how much the bond was?
$1 million.
It was $1 million. And her husband, the Weezer bassist, promptly paid that $1 million. Did
they run?
What?
Did they run to Turks and Caicos or something?
No. Why would they do that?
Oh, to escape the court.
No. She's still going to be tried and everything. Like, she did it. She pointed a gun at the police. That's a very serious thing. Like, she's out on bail. Like,
why?
Yeah.
I could see, if, the police came up and, she was holding the two people running. at gunpoint. But, like, they weren't there.
Yeah. Well, one interesting fact about the wife is she is actually also, she was really into true crime. And if you know anything about people who are into true crime and stuff, sometimes they take matters into their own hands. And they
think, I can solve this better than you can.
They think I can be the detective, or I can, like, be better than the police, or, like, I can take control of this situation. And I think that's very much what happened here, right? This lady thought she's been listening to all her true crime detective stuff. These people, she gets involved with these people. The police come in her backyard, and she's like, I'm not standing down. And then she gets shot.
I can solve this better than you can.
Right. And I think perhaps the funniest thing...
Go ahead.
Perhaps the funniest thing is Weezer was performing at Coachella that weekend.
Oh, no!
And the husband didn't waste a day, because, like, it was, like, 2 or 3 days after his performance, and he was asked to comment on it. He was like, she's fine. Come see us at Coachella.
Good.
He was so casual about it. He was like, anyway, here's Wonderwall.
All I can think of, the wife is just, like, there, and she's just like Bobby from King of the Hill. I don't know you! With her gun. I don't know you!
Right. Girl, if the police are, like, staring you down with all these guns and you have one gun, what did she reasonably think was going to happen? People are insane. And honestly, the moral of this story is just because you're into true crime, you're not the police.
Just because you have a gun, like, listen to the police, like, please. I don't care, like, what caucasity you have.
Right. You're not a
And
detective.
for anyone who hasn't ever heard that, that's Caucasian audacity.
Right.
Whatever caucasity you have, put the fucking gun down and listen to the police.
And no shade to our listeners, but listening to podcasts that cover true crime and things like that don't make you an expert.
No.
It doesn't even make us an expert.
No,
we're not experts.
We spent hours researching this, and it's like, I'm still, like, flabbergasted. Like,
honestly, yeah.
And it's very easy, and I mean, we all know we're doing John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, we're doing
part
John.
2.
We're continuing
And, like,
Gacy.
first part, like, we're talking about, like, shit, like, the police let him go, and, it's very easy to comment on, like, when things go wrong, but that also does, but we're talking with we're looking at it with hindsight, where if we were in this situation, who knows what decision we would have made.
Right, exactly. But like you said, wait, do you have anything else to talk about? Like you said, we are covering John Wayne Gacy this episode, but before we can do that, we have to drink a little bit. So today, right on the nose, I had to do 19 crimes for obvious reasons. The dark red, because we're covering some dark subject matter.
Dry.
Yes. So, sorry, I'm not trying to read their history again, because on the back of every bottle, we get it, you're from Australia, blah, blah, blah. Like,
I don't think it has anything about the wine itself.
They forged. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yep, it doesn't have anything about the actual wine, just their
Eventually
history.
we should download the app and, like, scan the label to see the person talk.
That would be interesting. But for now, guys, let's get this wine open. Did we take the cork out of the first one?
Yeah.
Okay. I
have it in my hand.
Cool. This one's a hard one, y'all. She's fighting it. Ooh.
I think she just ran it wrong.
She was a fighter. Ooh. Ooh. Sorry. All right, let's get
This year we're barking at men.
Yeah. I'm just in the club like...
Please pour the wine. I'm uncomfortable.
Okay. She is dark. I like that. I grabbed that the worst way I could have grabbed that.
Did. Jesus.
Sorry, I'll stop making weird noises. All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Not bad.
She's not the best, but she's not the worst.
I'll give her 3.
Let me take a second. Yeah, I think I'll stick with 3 too. She's not the best, but she's not the worst. If you're in the mood for a dry wine, a red wine is tickling your fancy, you know? Maybe you're having a steak, you're having some pasta.
That is a good steak wine.
Maybe you're about to bury some boys in your floorboards. This would be perfect for burying some boys in some floorboards in your crawl space.
No, I think that's like a beer thing.
A beer thing.
Either that or Jack Daniel's straight from the bottle.
Right, because you don't want them to think you're a fruit picker. You're right, DJ. You gotta drink a man's drink after you rape and murder a boy.
Just tell me the story.
Oh gosh, okay, let's get into today's story. Today, we are continuing our journey through the life and killings of John Wayne Gacy. One piece of advice I would have for Gacy is no matter how hard you try, even if you think you can control who lives, who dies, who tells your story.
Oh my god.
No one can control that. Gacy thinks he is the ultimate game master, and his story will be a great one. And while it might be a good story, it is about him and the awful, disgusting person he was. I guess he should have taken a note from Alexander Hamilton, because when you're full of glory, you still have no control of who lives, who dies, who tells your story. And unfortunately for Gacy, we're the ones telling it. Did you get the reference?
Yeah.
The closing of Hamilton, the musical.
Yeah, I got it.
I feel like we're going to get a cease and desist letter from Disney.
From Lin-Manuel Miranda. Please, Lin, I love you.
Please stop us.
Don't.
Please stop.
It's all him, not me.
Please stop associating me with that child murderer. Ooh, okay. So, any comments before I get into it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Would you like a throw for your couch?
Pearl. What was their names? From Kath and Kim, right?
True.
Prue and True.
Would you like a throw for your couch?
Oh, Prue.
Mom, do we have a couch?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, right off the bat here, I have really only been focusing on the negative things about John Wayne Gacy.
Is there anything positive?
Well, yes, because to truly understand the Gacy murders and who he was in his community, we have to really look at all the things he was doing. So, first off, he's very well known in his community. He was the Democratic Party precinct captain of his area, which basically means if someone needed something like help shoveling their driveway or a new trash can or something like that, he was the one to do it. And he was actually described as the best precinct captain around, right? And also, he would host these huge parties at his house, right? Where all the community would come and everyone was welcome. And people would describe these as the best parties they've been to. So he's hosting these parties for the community at his own home. Well, no, they were there. They were dancing on boys under the boys were in the crawl space under them while he was having those parties. And also, no, sorry, I don't mean to get too off sidetrack. I know we're focusing on the good things. People did notice the smell, but they assumed it was just because he was fat. They figured, he's a fat single man. He's just a smelly person.
It's just the meat sweats.
Right.
My husband Morty gets them all the time.
Right.
It happens when he doesn't eat broccoli enough.
He was eating those deli meat.
But sometimes he eats too much broccoli and his thoughts are a little stinky. I'm sorry, this is Cheryl's cousin.
No. And also, he also rose the ranks of the JCs, if you remember, and he still had some connections from that. And also, he was a contractor in the community, PDM, so he knew, local business people he would do work for. So he was very well known, well respected in his community. And also, we talked a little bit about Pogo the Clown last week. Pogo the Clown would go to parades. He would
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I hate clowns.
Clowns are creepy.
I hate clowns. Like, please, get the fuck away from me.
Clowns are very creepy. I completely agree. They're weird and they're creepy. Now, am I scared of them? No, but they're creepy.
Yeah, I don't have, like, nightmares about them, but, like, if I see them out, it's like, oh, hi. Stay away from me. What I am afraid of, what I'm truly afraid of, what haunts my nightmares. Romo.
What's wrong?
My college mascot.
Oh.
My college's mascot. He was the freakiest. So I went to Robert Morris University.
Okay.
We were the Colonials. Go Colonials. But our mascot was Romo. Robert Morris Romo. Mm-hmm. But he was this big cartoon character with, like, this massively large chin, and he was, like, fuzzy, like, felty, and he had, like, stringy, greasy hair, and he only had 4 fingers.
Where did his fingers go?
I don't want to know. But he is creepy. There are pictures somewhere on the internet, because, like, it was, like, called Meet the Colonials, where, like, they introduced the basketball and football teams, and, like, I was in the choir and we sang the national anthem, and there's a picture because Robo tried to, like, come over and, like, give us a hug, and there's, like, a picture of me, like, going...
Spooky.
He was scary!
That sounds scary. I have a lot of information to cover, though.
Okay.
I'm so sorry to cut you off. I just have a lot of information to cover.
Parades.
So, yes. He's going to parades dressed as the clown, and he's going to children's hospitals to help cheer up the children as the clown and everything. Now,
he was just looking for his next lay. Sorry.
Okay.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Ow!
Tell me I'm wrong.
No. And one interesting thing about Pogo the Clown, too, is he, like, designed his own, like, face paint, right? Whereas clowns usually have soft, like, face paint, soft edges and stuff. It's more rounded. His had sharp edges, right? But that didn't really scare people. People loved Pogo the Clown.
Oh.
Also, one interesting thing about Gacy is one year he actually there was a Polish People's Day parade.
Yeah.
And he was in charge of it, right? And Rosalind Carter came to visit. And there is a picture of John Wayne Gacy with Rosalind Carter.
That's crazy.
Jimmy Carter's wife.
That's crazy. You know, they got involved in some pretty weird shit back in their day.
Maybe, probably. Well, they came for the Polish Day parade.
I know, but, like, Rosalind Carter also, like, visited Jim Jones.
Yeah. Now, I'll put those pictures on the screen of Rosalind with these characters, but...
I miss Rosalind and Jimmy.
But this just demonstrates, like, he's bumping elbows with very powerful people. He has powerful connections. He's big in the community. So it does give you kind of an insight of where he might have been cocky, like, oh, I have these connections, I can do these things, especially after his first murder when he didn't get caught, or like these first what am I saying, not the first murders, but
assault.
Yeah, these first assault charges where, like, nothing happened, they got dropped and stuff. Yeah. He's starting to feel invincible. Like, he can do things and not get caught. He has connections and people in powerful places who will back him up. And that's very important to note.
Could you imagine, like, Rosalind Carter just, like, being in the White House one day and it's like, ring, ring, ring. Hello? Mrs. Carter, it's John Wayne Gacy from Chicago. I got arrested for murder. Can you help me? Sorry, wrong number.
Well, we'll get into his lawyer and things like that a little bit later down the line. So, he's got all these connections, feeling powerful. So, let me tell you the story about his first murder, okay? Mm-hmm. So, his first murder was on New Year's. He had went to a party with his wife, gotten super, super drunk, right? He departs from his wife. His wife stays there, and he goes...
Carol, right?
Carol, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Second wife. Did I say... I think I said first wife by accident, but his
no,
second
I think
wife...
you said... I was just, like, making sure, like, it was Carol, not Marilyn.
No.
You just said wife.
Yeah, it's the second wife.
Yeah.
Yes. So, they depart. He goes driving around. He's a little tipsy. He picks up a boy from a Greyhound bus station... and tells him, like, so the boy's visiting Chicago. He tells him he's going to show him Chicago, right? Takes him back to his house. They do sexuals. They do sexual things together.
Activities.
Fall asleep. John Wayne Gacy wakes up. The boy is in his doorway with a knife in his hand. John Wayne Gacy flips out, murders the boy, just murders him. And then he walks in the kitchen and feels like he sees the boy was cooking him breakfast. He sees things cooking, like their table's all set. So he had the knife in his hand because the boy was cooking him breakfast. Which, side note, it's
crazy.
Could you imagine, like, you have to sleep with this old man, but you cook him breakfast too? Gross.
I guess he was kind of into it.
He had to have been to be cooking him breakfast the next day. But he murders this boy. Of course he puts him in the crawl space, right? But what he realizes from that first murder is he got a sexual thrill out of the murder.
Oh, no.
And that is what would drive him, is that thrill. Not just a thrill, the adrenaline rush of killing him, but that sexual rush he would get from killing these boys as well. So adding that sexual rush, it's a recipe for disaster, girl. So he continues killing. I'm not going to cover all of the murders because there's too many. 33 murders that he was... 33 bodies were found. He was convicted for 33 murders. Well, they didn't find 33 murder bodies. I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
Let's just get back into the notes.
Okay, so he's killing, but I'm going to skip ahead. We're not going to go through all the murders, like I said. We're going to talk about the murder that got John Wayne Gacy caught, the one that really did him in, okay? So, Monday, December 11th, 1978. Gacy decided to go into Nissan's pharmacy in Des Plaines, Illinois. Gacy went into... So, basically, he went in because he knew the pharmacist. He was doing construction work for the pharmacist, right? And that night working was Rob Peast and a girl named Kim, right? So, he goes in, starts talking to the pharmacist and everything, and he sees Rob Peast there working. And one thing to note about Rob Peast, he's just a teenager, and he's like hard out for money right now. He's trying to save up money. He wants a new car, and he's also an avid photographer. So he's trying to save up money for a new camera as well. So he's working at the pharmacy for that. And he overhears Gacy talking about his construction company. And somehow Gacy must have picked up on it because Gacy starts talking about how well he pays his employees and everything, right? So Rob Peast overhears this. And so Gacy leaves, but Gacy forgot his notebook on the counter, right? His brown appointment book. So Gacy leaves and comes back, picks up the book, and leaves the pharmacy. So Rob Peast sees Gacy comes back, and decides to go after him to talk to him about potentially getting a job with him. So he goes over to Kim, who was working the register at the time. Now, one thing to note, the register is near the doorway, okay? And it's December, so it's freezing there. So before she had asked Rob to borrow his jacket, right, while she was like working by the register. So he walks over to Kim and is like, hey girl, can I have my jacket? I'm going to go talk to this man about a potential construction job. And she's like, oh sure, hands him back his jacket. And Rob Peast leaves. And that was the last time he was seen alive. And so that night, interesting fun fact, it was actually his mom's birthday.
No.
And it was expected him to come home that night to celebrate his mom's birthday with them. He was very close to his family, very close to his mother. So when he didn't come back to the night, the family is obviously very alarmed. So they go straight to the police. Now, before this, the police didn't take any of this seriously. Parents would come in and report things. Even some of the victims would come in and report things Gacy had done to them, but none of it was taken seriously. There was one instance where one of the boys went in and told him, Gacy had handcuffed him, basically tortured him and let him go, right? They go to the police, and then, so the police did bring Gacy in that time, but then Gacy said, oh, we were having consensual sex, it was slave sex, blah, blah, blah. And one thing about the police, as soon as I hear it's gay stuff, they get wigged out, especially back in that day. And
still,
the boy he had that time was an adult, so they just believed Gacy, said it was consensual, and let him go. So there are a couple times that happened before this, and there are boys who came in and reported things like this, that Gacy did things to them, and the police just never looked into it. And another thing to note about police during this time, people who they called drifters or anything, people would go missing all the time. Like, the police would just dismiss it as, oh, they're just runaways, drifters. They're what they would call, like, the less dead. People who go missing, and the police don't really care because, like, their body's not worth as much as, like, someone else's. Like, they're drifters, stoners, gay people. Like, these cases are so often dismissed. But when Rob Peace's family comes in, then they tell him the story. The police quickly realize, like, oh, this is a white boy down a well. We gotta do something here, because they realize, oh, Rob Peace, he's respected. He's very close with his family. He had no reason to run away. All of his cash was still in his house, even, like, because he had saved up a good amount of cash. So if he were to run away, he would take his cash with him. So the police quickly realize, like, hey, something's going down here.
And also he disappeared from work.
Right. So, like, the police, they go and interview the pharmacy, the people at the pharmacy that night, whoever was there. And, of course, Kim's like, yeah, he went to go talk to Gacy, who was there the last time I saw him, about a construction job and everything. So, that's what leads them to Gacy's and investigating Gacy for this, right? They zero in on Gacy. He's the last person seen with Rob, right? They bring him in for questioning that night. But one interesting thing about that night, well, basically, they would go to Gacy's house, be like, hey, we need you to come in for questioning. You're the last person seen with this boy. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll be there. Gacy doesn't arrive until 3 a.m.
Oh, no.
So it's hours and hours pass. The investigators are there next morning. They ask Gacy to come in. He doesn't come in until 3 a.m. the next day. So this is the day after Rob Peace's disappearance, right? So Gacy comes there at 3 a.m. and they notice there's mud on his tires. His truck's just covered in mud and everything. And it's just super suspicious.
Don't like that.
So they order 24-hour surveillance on Gacy, right?
Good.
And they do get a search warrant for his house. Now, upon the first sweep of the house, they don't find much. But they do find a couple interesting things, including some IDs from, like, these boys that they have to look into. They find a high school ring with the initials JAS, which that'll come into play a little later. And they also find, like, these weird pedophilia books, all sorts of gay porn, all sorts of things like that. And in his trash can, there's a photo receipt. Now, back in the day, if you don't know, when you would go to order photos from the pharmacy, you would get a receipt, and it had a special number, and they would write down, like, your receipt number and who ordered those photos, right? So, just on a hunch, the officer takes the photo receipt out of his trash can as well. Just on a hunch, right? So they have this evidence, they start looking into it, and so they discover, like, the high school ring, of course, belongs to a missing person, right? So do the IDs. And then they start looking into Gacy and realize, oh, some of the contractors he's been working for, like, that he's hired, like, these workers he's hired, some of them have gone missing.
Oh.
Things just start popping up. And then it's really interesting when they're looking into this, the police officer says there are so many people who don't know one missing person. But Gacy knows all these missing people, and he's the last person seen with this boy. And so they got him under 24-hour surveillance now. The police are tailing him. Now, the police would say that they would make their presence known just to intimidate Gacy more. But I think he noticed the police, and the police were just saying that, so they seemed more confident.
Like they were in control.
Right, exactly. But almost out of, like, either out of an act of arrogance or an act of, like...
I think it was arrogance.
Maybe arrogance, or maybe trying to get the police on his side more. He would, like, take the police who were tailing them. He would buy them dinners, invite them in for drinks, tell them all sorts of things, tell him he wasn't doing it, all sorts of things.
I think it was arrogance because, like, sociopaths and psychopaths, like...
Well, it's interesting you'd say that, because while he's having dinner with one of these policemen, right, it's where we get one of his most famous quotes. He's having dinner with this policeman, saying all the things he can do as Pogo the Clown, right? He's allowed to feel out women in public, allowed to like just grab people and do these things you couldn't do just as a regular person. And then he says, and probably the most chilling thing he says is, clowns can get away with murder.
Ew.
He says that right to the policeman. So, as the police are investigating, they eventually also found out about the sodomy charge and everything. So, the whole picture is coming together. Everything's coming together. And one of the most interesting thing, too, the person who the high school ring belonged to, his name's John Cizik, right? So, he had a car, and he had sold the car to Gacy, and he was going to sell the car to Gacy, and so basically he murdered this boy, changed the VIN number of the car, and sold it to someone else.
How do you change a VIN number on a car?
So he scratched out like one of the numbers. He changed one of the numbers on the VIN number of the car, and they found out by like going to the DMV and comparing titles and stuff, and they noticed the VIN number of the car of that one of his contractors was using. It matched his car and was only off by one VIN number. So basically, Gacy just changed the VIN number of the car of the boy he murdered and sold it to one of his contractors.
Crazy.
So they're zeroing in on him, and they didn't get enough from that first search warrant. I mean, even the first search of the house, they did go into the crawl space, but they didn't find anything. In the crawl space, it just looked like a regular crawl space. Now, they did notice there was quicklime covered there, but that's a common thing for people to have, like, covered there. To them it was, I guess, because they didn't question it. But, so, zeroing in on Gacy. Now, remember how I told you the police were kind of getting close to Gacy and everything? So, one night, he invited the investigators in, right? And so, one of the investigators goes into the bathroom. And please note, this is a homicide investigator, so he's, like, done murder investigations before, and he flushes the toilet, and then up wafts an awful smell. And this smell is very recognizable to him as a homicide investigator. It's
as dead bodies.
Exactly. And at the same time they're doing this, it comes in that the photo receipt actually belonged to Kim Peist. Not Kim Peist, but Kim, who was working at the pharmacy that night. And what she had done is when she got her photos, she had stuck her photo receipt in Rob's jacket pocket. Exactly. So now they have this piece of evidence linking Rob Peist to being in Gacy's house, like having that photo receipt there. And ultimately this little thing, this photo receipt, would end up being what would do John Wayne Gacy in. Because with the photo receipt and the dead person smell, they got the search warrant, the second search warrant, and the judge, and I quote, said to them, "Go get that son of a bitch.
Right on.
Get that motherfucker. You better get this, dude." And thankfully, in the second search of the cross space, it doesn't take them long to dig up, and they find the first body. Now, you might be asking,
It's not Rob.
What?
It's not Rob.
Rob. Okay, we'll get what happened to Rob.
I'll tell you. Not Rob. Who is it? Who's the body?
It's one of the 20 people he murdered. Like, they don't identify the bodies until later, because a lot of these bodies are decomposed, right? A lot of them are decomposed beyond recognition, right? So they don't know who they are right off the bat. They have to do DNA testing and stuff. And to this day, some of the bodies, like, haven't been identified. And they do think that because some of them were drifters, or maybe, like, some parents have missing parents, but they don't want to think their kid might be involved in, like, drugs or homosexual activity or anything like that. So maybe some of their parents didn't come forward. But they found 22 bodies in the basement. No, sorry, they found 26 bodies in the basement. I don't know where I got 22. They found 26 bodies buried there, right? Now, we'll get to where the rest of the bodies, because if you remember before, I said 33 murders. Yeah. We'll get to the rest of the bodies later. But let's backtrack a little bit. They got their second search warrant. They're looking through the basement. They're doing their thing. But where's Gacy doing all this? What's going on? Where is he? Well, Gacy must have felt the pressure because he goes to his lawyers that evening and he tells his lawyer everything. He gets a couple drinks in him. He brings a newspaper with Rob Peace's picture on it. He lays it down on his lawyer's desk, points to him, and says, "This boy is dead. He is missing. He's not coming back. He's dead." Gacy takes a couple drinks, and throughout that entire night, he tells his lawyer everything. He details every single murder that he's done. And then Gacy eventually passes out drunk.
And the lawyer call the police?
No, because it's like client confidentiality stuff. And he's not sure what to do at that point, so the lawyer leaves. And the lawyer doesn't leave until Gacy leaves. So Gacy wakes up. He's obviously like flustered. He just came true about all these murders too. Even if it is his lawyer, he's came clean. So he's flustered and he hightails it out of there. And the lawyer goes home and he describes the moment after hearing all of this, like in showering, like just feeling like he can't get clean after hearing all the atrocities he committed and not knowing what to do next. So at this point, Gacy is being very erratic. The second search warrant, they're uncovering all this shit, right? And then, so, being erratic, they're following him, the police are following him, he's driving crazy and doing all this crazy shit, and they're starting to worry that he might commit suicide before they can, like, get him in there. And one thing about Gacy is he liked weed. He was smoking some weed, okay? So Gacy would pull like to the side of a gas station and hand the weed to like some random teenage boy, right? And be like, he told the boy that like, "I'm being watched, I can't have this on me." And of course, the boy sees the police are watching, so he immediately walks the weed right over to the police.
Yeah.
And the police arrest Gacy right there on weed charges.
Oh my god.
I know. The reign of terror. It's
always... They always get arrested over something stupid.
Yeah, well, they, like, didn't have enough just yet, but they got him in there. And then, so they get John Wayne Gacy into the interrogation room. And he starts to come clean. He says, "For so long, I have been the judge, jury, and executioner of other people. And it's time for me to be my own judge, jury, and executioner."
Oh.
And he comes clean. He tells them about the murders and everything. And people are like, ask themselves sometimes why he might have come clean so easily to the police. Well, some people think that
he was caught.
Well, he was caught, and some people thought, like, maybe he thought that if he came clean and told them everything and was, like, just cooperative, he might have gotten away with it, too, because he's gotten away with so many other things. He might have thought he had gotten away with it, too. So, here we are. He's in custody. He's confessed, and they're digging up the bodies. And they dig up all the bodies in the crawl spaces, but they're too decomposed to be
to identify.
Pieced. Yeah. Or even too decomposed to be Rob pieced, right? Mm-hmm. And so they dig up all the bodies and they're like, "Where's Rob?" So they go to Gacy and they're like, "Where is he? Where is this boy?" And he's like, "We should just leave the boy where he is. He's not underground and he's not above ground. He's in the middle." And he's like giving them these riddles.
Oh.
And then it eventually comes out that he threw him in the river.
No.
Yeah. He ran out of space in his crawl space and started having to throw bodies in the river. He threw about 5 bodies in the river, and they couldn't, like, find most of them, like, during the winter, because in the winter you can't get to the bottom of the river. So it isn't until April that the river dethaws, and Rob's body finally floats to the top of the river, and they finally recover Rob's body. I know, it's so sad, like, to think about... Rob's story kind of hurts, like, I don't know, it's so weird, because the thing about Gacy...
It was so innocuous, because it's like he just wanted to make a little extra money.
And it's so random, too. Like, if he had never gone out that night to talk to Gacy, he'd probably still be alive to this day. And it just speaks to the randomness of it all, and, like... Not only that, but the randomness of to how Gacy would to choose to kill people. Because some people he would just let go, and some people he would, like, go and murder.
Because I remember from the John Wayne Gacy tapes, there was the one guy who, he, like, went over and they were watching porn and John Wayne Gacy, like, held him by the throat and was like, oh, I'm just kidding. And then, like, a little while later, like, tried to, like, make a move on him. Mm-hmm. And when he was like, oh, no, like, John Wayne Gacy was like, oh, it was a test. Like, I just wanted to make sure you weren't gay.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what makes it the kind of even more scary. It's just, like, the randomness of how he would choose his victims, who he would choose to let go, and who he would choose to, like, murder and put in the cross space. Now, there are so many different facts about his murders and things I wasn't able to get into just because of time, of, like, just different ways. Well, actually, I will tell you how he murdered most of his victims. Yeah. What he had this handcuff trick, right? Mm-hmm. Where he'd show, like, he had this pair of handcuffs, and what he would do is he would put them on them and escape. And he'd tell them, like, hey, you want to see this trick? Do you want to try and escape? And he would handcuff the boys, and once they realized they couldn't get out, Gacy had them, and then he had this noose, and he would tie it around their neck and suffocate them. And that's how he murdered them. That was his MO.
Hate that.
Right, and it speaks to how much of a coward he is because he had to make sure these boys were helpless. They couldn't do anything. Yeah. They were handcuffed, and that's when he would kill them. Mm-hmm. It just talks to how much of a coward he is and how important it was to him that he was in control of the situation. He had to be in control at all times.
It's ridiculous.
It's really insane.
Disgusting. That's what it is.
Honestly, it is disgusting. So, he would go to court for 33 counts of murder, right? And his lawyer was trying to go for an insanity plea, which was the only plea they had a hope in God of doing. Now, we all know... Well, I'll tell you why I don't think he's insane. Because he could run a business.
Yeah.
The murders were maybe not planned, but thought out. And he was, like... there enough to do things and be a normal member of society. And not only be a normal member of society, he was doing a lot of, like, I want to say respectful things in the community. No, he was a respected man. This man was not insane. He knew what
he was doing.
Yeah.
And the fact that he hid it shows that he knew what he was doing.
Right.
And there was no insanity behind it.
Exactly. The insanity plea is mainly for people, like, who don't even know where they are. They can't differentiate, if I can talk, between a human life and just, like, a desk chair or something. Like, and some people theorize they did do the insanity plea just to set a precedent for future cases like this, so no other murderer could use the insanity plea. Like, murderers like Gacy could use the insanity plea and claim insanity, which I think things like that are important. So while it might seem stupid, setting that precedent, like, oh yeah, he's killing people, but that doesn't make him insane. Yes, he's a psychopath, he's a monster and an awful person, probably the most despicable people to ever live in the United States, like, and that's a big claim. I know that's a big claim, but he is just the definition of a monster, and it, like, shakes you to your core. And honestly, it's probably not surprising that it took just under 2 hours for them to convict him guilty of all 33 counts of murder.
I always wonder about jury rooms, like, when you hear, like, oh, it took them, like, just under 2 hours, which is a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. Like, how quickly did they actually get to it? And, like, how long did...
Well, if you break it down, that's 4 minutes a sentence.
Yeah. But also, like, sometimes I just wonder, like, do the people, like, juries ever just, like, go in and it's like, yeah, he's guilty. Like, do you just want to, like, sit here and pretend like we, like, thought about it?
That's probably a lot what this one was like, because he was guilty of all 33 counts. No question about it. So, he is guilty.
Good.
He gets the death penalty, which is a whole debate in itself, the death penalty. Yeah. But I will say, if anyone's more deserving of it, he deserved the death penalty. If anyone deserves it, however you feel about things, he definitely deserved the death penalty.
Yeah, just...
One cool thing about the courtroom, when they, doing their closing arguments, right, they had the door to the crawl space there, right? And they had pictures of every person who was murdered by Gacy. And they looked at the jurors and they said, I want you to show him as much mercy as he showed these boys before he put them in that crawl space and they threw down the photos. And, like, that's courtroom drama,
That
man.
is drama. That's some Law and Order shit.
That iconic, legendary quote, honestly, legendary quote. John Wayne Gacy was executed on May 10th of 1994. His last words were, "Kiss my ass."
Oh, I hate it when they do that. And they...
Yeah.
You're not clever, you're not pithy, you're not witty.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck off.
Yeah, no. And he, like, was an asshole the way he died. He said, "Gacy still wins. I killed 33 people and you only get to kill me once." He was a prick until the day he died.
You know what, John Wayne Gacy? I hope you're in hell, and I hope Satan is dry fucking you on his little pitchfork. Honestly. No lube, no spit.
This man does not deserve any mercy. And I will say, people say, oh, he was abused and things. There's plenty of abused kids out there who don't murder boys and put them in their
And here's the thing. Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright once said, "There's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women."
Mm-hmm.
There is a special place in hell for queer people who don't help other queer people. And there is a special place in hell for queer people who target other queer people.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what he was doing. He was using, like...
And just the denial there, because he denied being gay till the day he died.
Yes, and, like, maybe he was bisexual.
Maybe.
And, like, maybe he was bisexual and he just preferred men, which is fine. That's totally valid. Mm-hmm. But he was using, like... And you realize, like, did he ever get into, like, why he chose to kill the people he killed?
No, like I said, like,
he was just a prick.
He was attracted to them and he wanted to, like, fuck them.
And I wonder if, like, because some of them he let go, and I wonder if, like, the ones he killed were the ones who kind of went with it. Mm-hmm. And he killed them because of that.
Maybe. That's a good theory. I like that theory. Or maybe... Yeah, and maybe the ones he let go, they just fought too hard and he kind of like... Because there were some, like, there was one person who he couldn't get in the handcuffs and he got out and was a state wrestler and he got out of there. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a couple stories like that of people who actually escaped Gacy. One of whom actually lived with Gacy for about a year. Gacy tried to, like, make a movie.
Yeah, like, if you... Yeah, and, like, being called a sissy, like, if you could escape, then it was like, oh, I guess, like... You're not a sissy. Mm-hmm. But, like, if you couldn't escape, it's like... I can just see him, like, being like, you're such a fucking sissy, you fruit picker, as he's choking them.
Right, exactly. Now, if it gives you any sense of relief, any closure, anything, they did botch the death penalty. They botched it the first time around. And so when they injected him the first time, it, like... either, like, coagulated or froze wrong in him, or, like, I forget the exact word, but they botched it the first time, so they had to inject him again. So it was a very painful death for him because they fucked up the death penalty the first time, which he very much deserved.
Yeah, I don't support the death penalty, but... and didn't he really get into painting while he was in prison?
He did get into painting. Thank you for bringing that up, DJ. Because he would paint the clowns, right?
Yeah.
There's this funny story of how he painted this, I forget what baseball team it was, but it was like the Seven Dwarfs playing this baseball team. And they actually got these Hall of Famers who were in the painting to sign it, but they didn't realize it was a John Wayne Gacy painting. So there's somewhere out there a painting of John Wayne Gacy made of these Seven Dwarfs playing baseball against this team, and they got their signatures on it. Probably worth a lot. I mean, John Wayne Gacy paintings are worth a lot of money.
Yeah, they are, and I don't think it was this one, but there was a case of a serial killer where, like, he wrote a book while he was on death row. Mm-hmm. And the court actually came back and said, like, you can't actually make money off that.
Oh, yeah, because they can't profit off their crimes anymore. Yeah. So he didn't see any... Well, I think actually this was before that ruling, so he did get that money. But
which is ridiculous, and apparently people collect them.
they do. There are collectors out there. John Wayne Gacy paintings are worth a lot of money.
I'm sorry. I am like turned entirely to you, and I'm like cold shouldering the audience.
It's fine. Yeah, I don't fully get like the collecting of serial killers things, but if that's your thing, pop off, sis. Pop off. So one thing to note, there are bodies that are still unidentified today that were found in that basement. So if you know anything, contact your local police. If you know a missing person that you think might have been...
in the Chicago area who went missing.
Exactly. Contact the police. Though actually, the last person to be identified was in 2021. So it still is open and they still are working and accepting tips to identify these people because they did identify one of the bodies in 2021, right? Mm-hmm. Now, very briefly, we will talk about the hauntings very briefly, and then there's one last thing I want to talk about after that. So, there's talk that Gacy haunts the R Theater in Illinois because a psychic contacted a malevolent spirit there that was described as a leering or looming clown.
Oh.
And they think that's Gacy. Now, there are a lot of skeptics to this, and there's a whole movie about the R Theater and Gacy potentially haunting there. Do I believe it? Probably not, because there's lots of spirits and things that could be, like, pretending to be clowns and things like that. But there are some people who think that psychic was right and that John Wayne Gacy might be haunting the R Theater. Also, so basically, they tore down John Wayne Gacy's house,
yes,
right?
I know.
They completely tore it down and stuff, and for a long time after that, no grass or anything grew there. So that started rumors among the local people that it was haunted by the people who were buried there, or that the land was even cursed. Now, they did eventually build a new home there. There are no reportings of hauntings at that new home, which kind of comforts me because I'd like to believe that those...
That they finally found peace.
Yeah, that they found peace. So that gives me comfort. And the person who owns that home now that is on that land, they did petition to have the number changed. Kind of like how Amityville did when they had their house number and street, everything changed. So they did petition to do that. They got changed and everything. So don't go looking for them. Leave those people alone. But those are the brief hauntings there. Other than that, no real hauntings about the Gacy beside the R Theater. Now, one interesting theory I do want to touch on before we put a nice little bow on this.
Okay.
Some people think that the people who were working for his contracting company were in on it.
Oh.
And some of them were helping them. Like, there was one boy who was working for him and did dig a grave for Gacy once. He didn't know it was a grave. Gacy just told him to dig and stuff. But there are theories that some of the contract, like the people who were closer with Gacy were in on it and would sometimes help him come over for some of those parties and everything. And actually, while Gacy was in prison, he would say that he didn't do all those murders. It was some of the people working for him who had keys to his house and everything. Of course, that could have probably just been him, like, trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
But I don't doubt that some of the people who was working for him on that contracting firm or working, like, on his job sites or wherever were in on it. Like, because let's say you walk in on him or, like, burying a body or, like, even if you're, like, remotely close to a crime like that, there's a lot of things he can say at that point, like, oh, you're tied into this now, and, like, oh, I have connections with this person and that person, like, you get what I'm getting at, like, getting tied into it and just, like, getting roped into it and not knowing what to do, like, no, you don't support it, but, like, what are you to do? Like, now you're involved in the murder of a person, and they're just kids, like I said, so they don't know any better. So they're like, I don't want to say accomplices, but at the same time, there are theories that they were accomplices and maybe they helped, like, dig holes. And I don't doubt that Gacy threatened them.
Could you be an unwitting accomplice?
Do tell, explain.
Where he's like, hey, I need, like, a hole dug over at my place. Come dig this hole. And they go, like, okay, like, if you pay us. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, this is, like, kind of like a grave size. And, like, John Wayne Gacy, like, makes some stupid joke.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it's like, what do you need it for? It's like, oh, like, I have a new water heater and you bury it. Or like I have like it's for my sister.
Well, that's what happened to that one guy I just talked about, where he dug that hole for Gacy and didn't know it was for a boy.
Yeah, so like, are you an accomplice of somebody?
I don't think you are at that point.
Yeah.
I think if maybe they got involved with Gacy with like maybe even the drugs part, and then it just kind of
I don't think so. I
snowballed?
think he just killed them all. I think like he probably had his like
Cronies.
workers like, and I think like they were like accomplices maybe in getting him drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Like like because didn't he drug a few of them?
Yeah, he had used chloroform, and actually one of the victims that escaped, he went to the police department and he had chloroform burns on his face from Gacy. And of course he was gay, the police didn't do anything. And actually, one interesting thing about him is he remembers the exit that Gacy took him on, and he sat at that exit until Gacy's car went by.
And tailed him?
Yeah.
And still did nothing.
One last wait, do you have anything you want to add to that theory about maybe some of the people at the construction company being accomplices?
No, but as I said last week, my grandmother's best friend Audrey, she lived by John Wayne Gacy. She lived the next street over, like across it. Mm-hmm. So, John Wayne Gacy's house was here, for those of you watching this visually. And then there was a house behind his.
Yeah.
And she lived across the street from that house. And she was telling me about, this was years ago before we ever started the podcast, how like when they were like excavating, like a bunch of the neighbors like stood on the back porch watching in morbid curiosity. And one of her daughters, she has three daughters. And one of her daughters said, Mom, it's a really good thing that we're all girls, because if not, one of us probably would have been buried under Mr. Gacy's house.
Because he was fine to girls. He did. Yeah, I mean, his second wife had two daughters, and he was perfect with the girls. It's the boys he was murdering.
Yeah.
No, he was murdering boys. Now, also, one last little fact I want to note is that there was a body that he buried in the basement. Not the basement, the garage. So basically, he buried the body in the garage and covered it over with cement. So they weren't all in the crawl space at his house. There was one in the garage that was under cement, and the rest were in the river. Now, after talking about that awful, awful, horrible shit for 2 episodes, and all that research and everything...
I know, I gotta do something kind of lighthearted next week.
Right, I have been living with this man, reading this book, doing all this stuff, like, I need to watch videos of puppies or something. Yeah. This story...
I'll try and do something next week, lighthearted. Maybe like a cryptid or something.
Oh, that'll be fun. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoy stories like this, and it's like...
No, it's good, but it is very heavy, and it's hard to, like, end it.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely obvious lessons in this story and everything. Be safe out there. Don't trust anyone. Just because, like, someone big in the community doesn't mean, like, they're good people.
Don't accept drugs off of strangers.
Don't get into cars with random people. Like, just be careful out there, y'all. Because the world is a scary place. There's scary people out there. And just be safe out there. And protect yourself from the Gacys of the world. Because unfortunately, there are people out there like that. And it's very unfortunate, and we just gotta watch out for each other, and just watch out for each other, and take what you will from this story and from his story, and we remember the victims, and just honor the victims. Yeah, it's very important in stories like this not to honor the serial killer, but to honor the victims, because those are the people who should be talked about. And I know I kind of just went against that by spending 2.5 hours talking about him, but it is what it is. It was interesting researching. It was a lot of fun to tell you guys this. Well, not a lot of fun to tell you guys this story. Like DJ said, I don't really know how to end it without sounding crazy. So
if you have your own takes on this, please connect with us. You can email us or DM us on any of our socials. Please remember to like, subscribe, and follow wherever you are listening. Paul, where can they find you?
You can find me on my personal Instagram and TikTok at Paulember, Paulember. And as usual, It's not delivery. It's DiGiorno. And a good riddance to John Gacy, finally. Jesus Christ, I spent way too much time on this.
And if you'd like to follow me, please do so on TikTok and on Instagram at TheRealDeejPowers. And remember, until next time, keep your crips tight.
And your corks loose.
Bye. The internet is really, really great for porn.